Do your stainless steel pans have burnt on food, discoloration, or maybe the bottoms look like this? Well, let me show you the best way to get them nice and clean inside and out. When it comes to everyday cleaning of your stainless steel pan, I like to come through after every use with just a little bit of dish soap, warm water, and a non-scratch scrub sponge. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Brandon, that's not groundbreaking whatsoever. No, it's not. But what I've noticed when I do this on a regular basis and really keep up on it, my pan stays in good shape. Now, something to always keep in mind though when it comes to choosing a scrubber for these is you never want to use something that's super aggressive. So those ones that are green and yellow, always stay away from those because those will scratch the surface and cause damage. Personally, I like to use something that's non-scratch, like a Scrub Daddy, just because I know it's going to be soft enough to not damage, but also strong enough to cut through all the grime on the pan. Now, sometimes you might have a piece of food that's kind of stuck on there that you just can't quite scrub away. And what I found that works really well is this little Lodge plastic scraper. You just come through, scrape those areas out, give it a quick rinse, and it should be all gone. Now the pan here has cleaned up really well, but something I like to mention that I noticed that just keeps my pans in even better shape is rather than just letting them air dry on a mat like so, I just like to come through with a microfiber towel and just dry the pan here quickly, getting all the water residue off there. What this is gonna do is just make sure that there's no water spots on the pan so it dries clean, and as you can see, super shiny. Now sometimes after just the routine clean, you might still have a little bit of burnt on food like this pan here, or maybe you're like me and not so great of a cook sometimes and you tend to burn some things on your pan. Now to fix this, it's pretty simple. What I like to do is just come over to the sink and add a little bit of water. We just wanna make sure to cover the entire bottom of the pan. And once we're done there, we're just gonna grab some dish soap and add just a few drops. You don't need a ton. There we go. And then what I like to do is just come over here to my stove, and we're just gonna turn on about medium heat here and let this simmer and heat up for about 10 to 15 minutes. What's really cool about this is you can actually see the burnt stuck on food start to lift from the surface. Now, once you see that, what I like to do is pull it off the heat and just let it cool down for a little bit. We don't wanna touch it right away. And then once it's nice and cool, I'll come back over to the sink, give everything a quick scrub, rinse, and a wipe with a towel, and it should be back to new. Now, discoloration can happen on these types of pans. You'll notice kind of a rainbow hue on the inside of this one here, and that's something called heat tint. Essentially what that means is something was cooked in here at too high of a heat, and then a thin layer of oxide presents itself on the surface, and that has to be removed for, well, the heat tint to be gone. Now to fix this, it's pretty quick and simple. All you need is just some white vinegar and some water. Now what I like to do is just mix them 1 to 1, and honestly, sometimes just adding that vinegar, you'll start to see the heat tint just completely go away. That's a really good sign. Now, sometimes if it's really bad, you might have to supercharge this a bit. I'll just bring it over to the stovetop and let it sit on there for about 10 to 15 minutes on like medium to high heat. Then let the pan cool, bring it back over to the sink, just give it a quick rinse and wipe down, and the heat tint should be gone. Now, as you can see here, the heat tint is completely gone, and this thing is looking so much better, so shiny. But if you actually come in real close, you'll notice there are some scratches on the surface of this pan. Now, this is actually a friend's pan that she very graciously let me borrow to clean for this video. But I just like to point that out because what can happen, again, if you use those green and yellow sponges, they're going to scratch the surface and cause some damage. Now, does it really matter that there's a few scratches there? Not really. It's not gonna affect the overall use or cooking of this pan. It's more just cosmetic. But again, if you wanna keep it in tip-top shape, use a non-scratch scrub sponge. Now, when it comes to cleaning the bottom of the pan, it can be a challenge. Now, as you can see here, this one is pretty charred up and has a ton of burn and just grease and grime on it. Now, every time I talk about cleaning the bottom of the pan, I get the same comment, and that's the bottom doesn't matter. That's where no cooking happens. It is what it is. Now, yes, that is true to a certain extent. However, if you have things like a glass cooktop, dirt and grime build up on the bottom of the pan can cause issues and scratch your surface, and even sometimes affect the actual overall cooking power because you can't get an even heat across the bottom of the pan. So to clean that, this is what I like to do. Use Bar Keeper's Friend. Now, this is an amazing product to kind of cut through all that burnt on grease and grime from the pan here. Honestly, I've been using this ever since my grandmother first showed it to me many years ago in my cleaning career. Now, to get started, I like to first just wet the surface of the pan. Then we're gonna come through and just sprinkle on some of the Bar Keeper's Friend on the surface, and then give everything a really good scrub, again with a non-scratch scrub sponge. Now, there are a ton of different hacks out there to clean the bottom of your pan, and I've tested just about every single one. A real popular one is to use oven cleaner. Now, The oven cleaner will cut through the grease and grime pretty well. However, it can tarnish or damage the metal of your pan itself. So I don't like that one very much. Now, the other one is to use ketchup or tomato paste. Now, yes, that can help cut through the grease and grime because it is acidic. However, I just found that it takes so much scrubbing, so it's not really worth it. Now, in my experience, really the key to using Barkeeper's Friend is to give it time to work. If you've watched my videos before, I've talked about something called dwell time. Essentially, that just means put the cleaner on there and let it do its thing. Now, Barkeeper's Friend has something called oxalic acid in it, and that's really where the cleaning power comes from, but it needs time to, well, do its thing and break down all the grease and grime. Now, I will say on the can of Barkeepers, it says to only let it sit on there for a minute. And you want to be careful because it is strong. It's going to cut through various things. So use caution with this, but usually anywhere from that 1 to 5 minute range is going to get it nice and clean. Now you might be thinking, Brandon, why did you put a piece of blue tape down the middle of the pan? Well, the reason being is I just like to show how well this stuff works. Now I'll pull it off here and get a super satisfying line. As you can see right here, that's all the grease and grime buildup. This is the area we cleaned, pretty obvious there, but it looks so much better. The only problem with putting a piece of tape down is now I gotta clean this side. Once you're done scrubbing, come through and rinse everything with water and dry with a microfiber towel. And there you have it. Now you know the best way to get your stainless steel pans nice and clean. Thanks so much for watching as always, and if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel, or if you have a question, definitely drop a comment down below. I also need to give a huge shout out to the Clean Squad members over on our Patreon. Thank you so much for continuing to support Clean That Up. If you want to join us over there, click the link down in the description, and as always, I'll see you on the next clean.